Hello Amington Heath and welcome to today's English learning video, and today for Key Stage 2 it's about simple, compound and complex sentences. Here we go. Let's look at simple sentences. A simple sentence contains only one independent clause. This is a whole thought that makes sense on its own. For example, I went to the shops. A simple sentence contains a subject, which is a thing, place, or a person, and a verb, which is an action taking place. In this sentence, the subject is the shops, and the verb is went. Let's move on to compound sentences. A compound sentence contains two independent clauses. For example, I went to the shops and I bought an apple. These are two independent clauses which are sentences that make sense on their own. We connect the two independent sentences using a coordinating conjunction. These are words such as for, but, nor, and, or, yet, and so. For example, I went to the shops and I bought an apple. We've connected the two independent sentences to create one compound sentence. Let's now discuss complex sentences. A complex sentence contains at least one independent clause. Remember, these are sentences that make sense all by themselves, and one dependent clause. For example, I went to the shops running all the way. The first part of this sentence is an independent clause. It can make sense all by itself. The second part of this sentence is a dependent clause. This part of the sentence wouldn't make sense all by its own. A dependent clause is one that cannot be a sentence on its own. It needs an independent clause to make sense. For example, here is a dependent clause, but couldn't reach. This sentence here does not make sense on its own. You couldn't walk up to somebody and say to them, but couldn't reach. They would want to know the rest of the sentence. But when you add an independent clause, it creates a complex sentence. Let's add the girl jumped up high to our dependent but couldn't reach. The girl jumped up high but couldn't reach. There, they make sense when they're together. The independent clause, the girl jumped up high, and the dependent clause, but couldn't reach, together creates the complex sentence. Let's look at these complex sentences using subordinating conjunctions. Remember, they have to have an independent and a dependent clause. The subordinating conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence, making the first half of this sentence a dependent clause. When we buy his trousers is a dependent clause. The when in the sentence makes it a dependent clause. We then add the independent clause together to create one whole complex sentence. When we buy his trousers, we have to make sure they are black. Let's try another. Although the windows were closed, I could still hear the car's engine. Once again, at the beginning of our sentence, we have a subordinating conjunction. We could read the sentence without the subordinating conjunction at the start. The windows were closed. And this would make sense all by itself. But because we've put the subordinating conjunction at the beginning, this now turns the sentence from an independent clause to a dependent clause. So we now have the dependent clause of, although the windows were closed, added to the independent clause, I could still hear the car's engine, and it creates the complex sentence. This now completes your English learning for today, and you're now ready to complete today's home learning task. If you are stuck or you have any questions, just email your teacher and we will be able to help you at any time. Have fun and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.